On the seventh night, as she lay in bed, the air shifted. A soft murmur, like voices speaking just beyond her understanding, curled around the edges of her hearing. She sat up, staring into the darkness. The house groaned with age. The wind rattled the windows. But underneath it, there was something else. A whisper. It was not the words that unsettled her. It was the tone. Urgent, desperate, a plea. She told herself it was just the house settling, but the sound didn't stop. It grew stronger, more insistent, and then, just as she felt the whispering press against her ears, a sharp knock echoed from somewhere deep in the house. Olivia froze. She held her breath, listening. The knock came again, this time slower, deliberate. Her pulse pounded as she slid out of bed, the floor cold beneath her feet. She didn't own a pet. She lived alone. There was no logical reason for a sound like that to come from inside. She stepped into the hallway, every shadow stretching too long in the dim glow of the moon, filtering through the stained glass window at the end of the corridor. The house loomed around her, its silence thick and expectant. Another knock. This time, she pinpointed the source. The attic. A shiver ran down her spine. The attic door was just at the end of the hall, a heavy wooden thing she hadn't even dared to open since moving in. Something inside her screamed to turn back, to pretend she had never heard anything. But another part, the part that needed to know, pushed her forward. She reached the attic door and hesitated. The air around it felt wrong, thick like walking through unseen cobwebs. The handle was cold as ice beneath her fingers. She turned it slowly, the door creaking as it swung inward. Darkness yawned before her. The whispering stopped. The silence that followed was absolute. She stepped inside, the floorboards sighing under her weight. The air was stale, heavy with dust, but there was something else, a scent. Faint, but distinct. Lavender, her mother's perfume. A sudden flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned, her heart slamming against her ribs. The antique mirror in the corner. Something moved within it. Not her reflection, something else. She took a step closer, barely breathing. The glass rippled as though it were water, and then a hand, pale, trembling, pressing against the inside of the mirror, her mother's hand. A strangled gasp escaped her lips as the fingers scratched weakly at the glass, leaving streaks in the dust. Olivia stumbled back, every nerve in her body screaming at her to run, but she couldn't move. Then the whispering returned, but this time it was clear. "Help me." Tears burned in Olivia's eyes. "Mom?" Her voice was a broken whisper. The figure in the mirror, her mother, opened her mouth, but no sound came. Only the whispering, growing louder, overlapping voices, twisting together into something frantic, pleading. "She took me, she took me, she took me." Olivia's stomach turned. Who? Who took you?" The whispering stopped. And then, behind her, another knock, slow, measured, just outside the attic door. She turned, breath shuddering. The air felt heavier, colder. The door, which she had left open, was now closed. A shadow spilled beneath it. Not a normal shadow. It moved. Dragged. Olivia backed toward the mirror, her mother's face still twisted in silent desperation. She reached out without thinking, her fingertips brushing the glass. It was ice cold, and for a split second, it gave beneath her touch. Like it wasn't glass at all, but a thin membrane separating her from something else. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. The handle rattled, and then a voice, low and wrong, slid through the keyhole. "You shouldn't be here." Olivia turned back to the mirror, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "Mom, what do I do?" Her mother's eyes widened, and her mouth moved in a silent scream. The door behind her burst open. Darkness poured in, thick and suffocating. Cold hands clamped around Olivia's wrists, yanking her away from the mirror. She screamed, thrashing, but the grip was inhumanly strong, pulling her into the abyss of the attic's shadows. The last thing she saw was her mother, slamming her palm against the inside of the mirror, her face twisted in agony. And then Olivia was gone. The house fell silent. The attic door hung open, the darkness inside undisturbed. The mirror stood in the corner, its surface smooth once more. And from within, barely audible, a whisper. "Help me."